The billionaire had everything: power, money, fame. But as he sat across from his glamorous girlfriend in New York's most luxurious hotel, he realized he was about to witness something that would change his life forever. Ethan Gray was the name that Wall Street whispered with both envy and admiration. At just 31, he had built a tech empire worth billions. His sharp jawline, confident smile, and tailored suits made him the kind of man magazines called the most eligible bachelor in America. But what magazines didn't know was that Ethan's personal life was far from perfect. Tonight, he walked into the Sterling Grand, Manhattan's crown jewel of luxury hotels, with Cassandra Lane on his arm. Cassandra was everything society worshipped. Tall, stunning, dressed in a shimmering silver gown that hugged her figure, her designer heels clicking with arrogance across the marble floor. To strangers, they looked like the perfect couple, beauty and wealth hand in hand. To Ethan, however, Cassandra's attitude was a weight he could no longer ignore. They were escorted to a private dining hall where golden chandeliers reflected light like diamonds and a soft jazz band filled the silence with elegance. Ethan tried to focus on the view of the city lights beyond the glass windows, hoping the night would be peaceful. But peace was the last thing that awaited him. When the waitress arrived, Cassandra's mask of charm shattered instantly. She was a teenage African-American girl, probably no older than 18. Her black uniform was pressed neatly, her hair tied back with precision. Her name tag read Maya. Though her hands shook slightly, her voice was steady when she greeted them. "Good evening, sir, ma'am. May I take your order?" It should have been a routine moment, but Cassandra's lips twisted into a cruel smirk. "You?" she sneered, scanning Maya from head to toe. "A little monkey girl like you dares to serve us? Who hired you? Do they just pick people off the street to ruin my evening?" Maya froze. Her brown eyes filled with a quiet pain, but she didn't speak back. Tears threatened to fall, yet she stood there, pen in hand, waiting. Ethan's chest tightened with anger. His fingers curled into fists under the table. "Cassandra!" he said sharply. "What the hell are you doing?" Cassandra leaned back casually, as though her cruelty was a form of entertainment. "I'm doing exactly what's right. People like her don't belong in a place like this. Look at her. She doesn't even fit in the uniform." Maya's voice trembled as she whispered, "I can still take your order, sir." Ethan turned to her with gentleness Cassandra would never understand. His voice softened, carrying a warmth that seemed foreign in the icy atmosphere. "Don't listen to her. Please take our order. We'll have the chef's special tasting, menu and 2 glasses of your finest red wine." Maya nodded quickly, scribbling the order in her notepad. Cassandra scoffed, muttering insults under her breath the entire time. When Maya returned with their food 20 minutes later, her hands were steadier. She placed each dish carefully before them, her professional smile masking the earlier humiliation. Ethan gave her a small, encouraging nod, but Cassandra's cruelty had not ended. The glamorous girlfriend looked at the delicate, perfectly plated meal, and in an instant, she exploded with venom. She grabbed the nearest glass of wine, lifted it high, and with a vicious flick of her wrist, splashed it across Maya's face. Gasps echoed through the restaurant. The entire room froze, all eyes turning toward their table. Maya stood in shock, red wine dripping down her cheeks, her white apron stained. Silence fell heavy in the golden dining hall, broken only by Cassandra's laugh. "Now that," Cassandra said coldly, "is how you remind people of their place." Ethan stared at her, and for the first time, he knew something had to change. For a moment, the elegant dining hall of the Sterling Grand felt like it had stopped breathing. The sight of Cassandra splashing wine across the teenage waitress was shocking even for a city like New York, where scandals were a nightly event. Guests at nearby tables whispered. Some raised their phones to record, and others simply stared in disbelief. Maya stood frozen, wine dripping from her eyelashes, her trembling hands clutching the empty tray. She wanted to disappear into the floor, to escape the humiliation that burned hotter than the alcohol stinging her skin. Ethan pushed back his chair with a sharp screech. His voice cut through the silence like steel. "Cassandra, enough!" But Cassandra only smirked, twirling a lock of her glossy hair. "What? Don't tell me you're defending her." "She's just a waitress, Ethan, nothing more. Don't make this bigger than it is." Her words were laced with entitlement, as though human dignity could be measured by money and status. Ethan's gaze, however, had shifted to Maya. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a silk handkerchief and handed it to her gently. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Maya hesitated, her lips trembling. I'm fine, sir," she whispered, though her eyes betrayed her pain. She dabbed at her face, refusing to break down in front of the cruel woman who had humiliated her. The hotel manager, alerted by the commotion, rushed forward. "Mr. Gray, I sincerely apologize for this incident. Maya, you can step away, I'll handle it." "No," Ethan interrupted firmly. "She's staying. She's stronger than all of this, and she did nothing wrong." The manager's eyes widened slightly at Ethan's tone, but he nodded. Meanwhile, Cassandra leaned back in her chair, annoyed. "Oh, please, this is ridiculous. Why are you making a scene for some random girl? She should be thanking me for giving her attention she'll never get again in her life." Gasps rippled again among the guests. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable," while another whispered, "I thought she was a model, not a monster." Ethan's patience snapped. He leaned toward Cassandra, his voice low but filled with ice. "Do you even hear yourself? The way you treat people is disgusting. I've overlooked your arrogance for too long, but this..." He gestured at Maya, whose uniform was soaked with red stains. "This is unforgivable." Cassandra rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop pretending to be some knight in shining armor. You're a billionaire, Ethan. We don't live in their world, and they don't live in ours. Don't start acting like you care. It doesn't suit you." But Ethan did care. In that moment, staring at Maya's tear-streaked face, he realized he cared more than he ever had for Cassandra's fake charm. The bravery in Maya's silence, the way she stood tall even after being humiliated, touched something deep inside him. He turned to Maya again, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "You don't deserve this. None of it. Please don't let her words define you." Maya blinked, surprised by his kindness. No customer had ever defended her before, let alone a man of Ethan's status. She nodded slightly, her throat too tight for words. But Cassandra wasn't done. She grabbed her fork and banged it against her plate, commanding attention. "Enough of this nonsense. Either we get a different server right now, or I'm leaving this dump." The manager looked helplessly at Ethan, but the billionaire shook his head. "She's not leaving. If anyone is leaving, Cassandra, it's you." For the first time all evening, Cassandra's confident mask faltered. Her painted smile disappeared as she realized Ethan was serious. But her pride wouldn't allow her to back down. "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. Ethan's eyes locked onto hers, unflinching. "Watch me." The entire restaurant held its breath. Maya, still clutching the handkerchief, felt her heart pound in disbelief. A billionaire was standing up for her, against his own glamorous girlfriend. And in that electric silence, Maya understood this night was not just another humiliation. It was the beginning of something none of them had expected. The silence that followed Ethan's words was deafening. Guests who had been pretending not to listen now openly leaned in, eager to witness what would happen next. Cassandra Lane, Manhattan's darling, Fashion magazine's favorite cover girl, had never been publicly challenged, let alone humiliated. Her jaw tightened as she looked around the dining hall, realizing every set of eyes was on her. Phones discreetly recorded from behind wine glasses. This was no longer a private argument. It was a spectacle. "You're making a fool of yourself." "Ethan!" she snapped, her voice dripping venom. "Standing up for a nobody? For a teenage waitress who can't even hold a tray without trembling? You're destroying your own reputation." But Ethan didn't flinch. He stood, his tall frame towering over the table, his sharp blue eyes locked on Cassandra with an intensity that silenced even her. "No, Cassandra," he said firmly. "The only one destroying reputations tonight is you, and you've just destroyed yours." Gasps rippled across the restaurant. Cassandra's cheeks flushed crimson. Whether from anger or embarrassment, no one could tell. She grabbed her diamond-studded clutch, her voice rising. "You'll regret this. You think anyone else will put up with you? You think anyone will look at you the same after you throw me away for some worthless girl?" Ethan's jaw hardened. "She's not worthless. She has more dignity in her silence than you've ever had in your entire life." That broke Cassandra. Her eyes flared with rage, and she slapped Ethan hard across the face. The sound echoed through the room, followed by shocked murmurs. But Ethan didn't react. He simply stared at her, calm and steady, as if the slap had only confirmed what he already knew. "Leave, Cassandra," he said quietly. "We're done." Cassandra froze, her perfectly painted lips parting in disbelief. For once, her arrogance had no words to hide behind. With a strangled sound, she turned sharply on her heel and stormed out of the restaurant, her heels clicking furiously against the marble floor. The moment she disappeared, the tension in the air released like a storm breaking. Guests whispered, some even clapped softly. A few stood and shook their heads at the disgraceful scene they had just witnessed. Ethan exhaled slowly, his shoulders heavy but his conscience clear. When he turned back, his gaze fell on Maya. She was still standing there, the handkerchief in her hands, her cheeks stained with both tears and wine. He stepped closer, lowering his voice so the curious crowd couldn't overhear. "I'm sorry you went through that. None of this should have happened." Maya swallowed hard, shaking her head. "You don't need to apologize for her. She's your girlfriend." Or she was. Ethan's lips curved in a bitter smile. "Not anymore. And I should have ended things a long time ago." Tonight just proved why. For the first time since the humiliation, Maya felt her chest lighten. The billionaire's eyes weren't cold or distant, like she had expected. They were kind, steady, and filled with something she hadn't seen from anyone in her world before. Respect. The manager returned nervously. "Mr. Gray, again. We're deeply sorry for what happened tonight." "Maya, you can go home if you'd like." Ethan raised a hand. "No, she's not leaving. In fact," he glanced at Maya, "if she's willing, I'd like her to stay and join me for dinner." The room gasped again, louder this time. A billionaire inviting a waitress to sit at his table? It sounded like a scene from a fairy tale, impossible in real life. Maya's eyes widened. "Sir, I can't. It wouldn't be appropriate." Ethan's expression softened. "Call me Ethan, and it would be more than appropriate. It would be the first honest, genuine dinner I've had in months." Maya hesitated, her heart pounding. Everything inside her screamed that this was crazy, that she was just a waitress and he was a man whose name was printed in Forbes. Yet something in his tone, gentle, sincere, made her believe he truly meant it. After a long pause, she nodded. "All right, Ethan." And as she sat down across from him, still in her stained uniform, with curious eyes watching from every corner of the restaurant, Ethan Gray felt a strange peace settle inside him. For the first time in a long time, he wasn't chasing status, luxury, or appearances. He was chasing something real. The news of the Sterling Grand incident spread across New York like wildfire. By the next morning, tabloids and news sites had plastered Cassandra Lane's face across their headlines. "Model humiliates waitress in five-star hotel. Billionaire Ethan Gray ends relationship in public showdown." Clips from guests' phones went viral. Millions watched Cassandra splash wine across a teenage waitress, followed by Ethan's powerful words. "She has more dignity in her silence than you've ever had in your entire life." Cassandra's glamorous world collapsed overnight. Brand partnerships dropped her, fashion houses canceled her contracts, and social media exploded with outrage. Paparazzi captured her days later, stumbling out of a cheap downtown apartment. Her once lavish life reduced to ashes. Meanwhile, Ethan kept his promise. After that unforgettable night, he stayed in touch with Maya. At first, she resisted, feeling the gap between their worlds was too wide to cross. She was the daughter of a single mother, working double shifts just to pay for community college. He was a billionaire, moving in circles of luxury most people only dreamed of. But Ethan refused to let go. He showed up at the cafe where she worked part-time, sitting quietly in the corner just to talk during her breaks. He sent her books he thought she'd like, encouraged her to pursue her studies, and above all, he treated her like an equal. Slowly, the walls around Maya's heart began to crumble. She realized Ethan wasn't drawn to her because she was different. He was drawn to her because she was real. With her, he didn't have to be Ethan Gray, billionaire. He could just be Ethan. Months passed. Gossip columns moved on, but those who remembered the viral video often whispered about the mysterious waitress who had captured Ethan's attention. Maya ignored the noise. For her, what mattered was the quiet dinners, the long walks through Central Park, and the way Ethan looked at her as if she was the only person in the world. One crisp autumn evening, Ethan invited her to a rooftop overlooking the New York skyline. Strings of lights twinkled above, and the city glowed beneath them. Nervously, Maya asked, "Why do I feel like you've planned something tonight?" Ethan smiled, his hands trembling slightly for the first time in years. "Because I have." He dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet box. Maya gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Inside was not a massive diamond that screamed wealth, but a simple, elegant ring, beautiful in its sincerity. "Maya," he said softly, his voice breaking, "the night we met, I realized everything I thought mattered didn't. You've shown me what love, respect, and kindness really mean. Will you marry me?" Tears welled in Maya's eyes. For a girl who had once been mocked and humiliated in front of strangers, the idea that a man like Ethan could see her worth felt like a miracle. But in her heart, she knew it wasn't a miracle. It was love. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling. "1,000 times yes." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger, and when he kissed her, the lights of New York seemed to shine brighter. A year later, they married in a small ceremony, not in a lavish ballroom, but in a simple garden filled with family, friends, and laughter. There were no paparazzi, no screaming headlines, just two souls who had found each other beyond the noise of the world. As they danced under the stars, Ethan leaned close and whispered, "Luxury fades, money fades, but what we have, this will last forever." And Maya, smiling through happy tears, whispered back, "This is the only luxury I ever wanted." Far away, on a quiet street corner, Cassandra Lane sat on a cracked sidewalk, clutching a bottle, her once sparkling eyes hollow. She had lost everything because she had never learned. The one lesson Maya had taught Ethan, that true worth has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the heart. What do you think about Ethan's decision to leave his girlfriend for Maya? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this emotional billionaire love story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, share it with friends, watch more inspirational and heart-touching stories on our channel for daily motivation and emotional lessons.